It sounds like an easy question. What is West German pottery? There was a time when I thought I had a nice tidy answer. Sure, it's the pottery made in the western part of Germany while the country was divided. But that doesn't exactly help much. A little more specifically, there was a stretch from the early 1950s through the mid-1970s that especially stood out. During that time, the variety, quality, and quantity of shapes and decorations was utterly astounding. It may very well represent the most creative period for a single country in the history of art pottery. Even more impressive, this pottery movement was born before the shadow of World War II had cleared away and came to maturity during the tension and paranoia of the Cold War era. The intense creativity was probably a reaction to the decades before the war, when the German art world was so severely repressed by the Nazi Party, and that combined with a very strong desire to counter the darkness of the post-war era. So West German pottery isn't defined so much as a particular style as it is by its range of styles. Still, most people are familiar with the fun and the funky West German art pottery. And that makes sense because those are by far the items that are most easily available. More recently, the term fat lava has come to dominate the discussion and get used both appropriately and inappropriately. But I'd like you to consider this hint of the range of styles in West German pottery.
The same company that made this eye popper also made this eye soother. And the company that made this one also made this one. Some items are traditional, even elegant. Others look like an ad for a slasher film. Some look as if they came from the arts and crafts era. Others are very definitely space age. I've seen thousands of pieces of West German pottery over the years, and yet I feel like I know less than I did before. Since I can't show you thousands of pieces, I'm going to try a different track this time. Let's narrow the focus. Ignore the interruption coming up from the producer.
There's no way that any single vase can represent all of West German pottery. It's far too big a field. But this vase from ES Ceramic may come as close as any single piece can, and it's all about contrast and variety. We begin with the Volcanic Glaze, which is what most people think of when they think of West German pottery, even though these volcanic glazes came about around halfway through the West German era and also only form a fairly small part of the production. We also have the contrasting bands of lavender and white, which give us contrast in both color and texture, and the spritz decor application of the lavender is an echo of the spritz decor era, which was very popular in West German pottery in the early 20th century, with some spectacular work done in the Art Deco era. And then in terms of form, we also have the contrast with what looks like a round peg trying to fit into a square hole, a feeling I think many of us understand. Then there's the element that really disturbs some people, and that is this single handle that's just sitting out there, absurd and asymmetrical, and that's why it's there. These designers really wanted you to look at the piece, think about the piece, not just assume what it should be, but look at what it is. So all at once we have a mix of the traditional and the modern, past and present, the challenging and the soothing. And you thought that pottery just sat there. Well, of course, most of the time that's exactly what it does do. Art, in many respects, is very passive. What's important, though, is that the effects on us are very kinetic. The most impressive thing about West German pottery is the almost unbelievable variety in color, form, and concept. And that is the long and the short of it.